Hello, welcome to More Influence and Impact, the show that unlocks the secrets of success for multi-six and seven-figure business owners. I'm your host, Celia Faye Meisel, sales growth consultant, and I'm here to help you tap into the wealth of knowledge, strategies, and experiences of today's most influential industry leaders. Today, I'm bringing on my guest, Laura Dixon. Hello, Laura.
Hello.
So, Laura is a former corporate ladder climber and director at a Fortune 500 tech company. She was obsessively dieting and wanted to be naturally thin, which led her to discover what she calls the naturally thin method that allowed her to feel incredible in her body, lose weight, and keep it off easily while having kids during and after. Her method involves no restriction or deprivation, and now she teaches it to other super achievers like me who want to end the diet neuroses and live peacefully with their dream bodies. And so we are going to be talking about how to be naturally thin, how to live in your dream body and do it in a very peaceful and joyful way. And I'm so excited to have this conversation because Laura is actually one of my coaches inside of her program. I have to brag that I have lost almost 50 pounds. So we have a lot to talk about. And yeah, so Laura, let's get started and talk about, the women that you serve and like the common problems that you see them just living on repeat. That was also your story too.
Yeah. Well, first, thanks so much for having me here. And it obviously rings super true and near and dear to my heart because what I just have seen now, time and time again, myself and now all of the women that I serve as well, is that those of us that are very high achievers, super ambitious, we're really driven. We're able to have a lot of success in areas of our life, a lot of times in a career or in other areas of our life. Or people will even, train for Ironmans. They have so much dedication and so much self-control and so much discipline. Yet they don't feel like they're in their optimal body, or they
Mhm.
feel like the only way to live in their optimal body is to use a lot of force and restriction and willpower and micromanaging their food. And what happens is it just consumes so much of their mental energy,
Mhm.
and they go through ebbs and flows of being so hyper focused on trying to lose weight and meticulously tracking and counting and weighing their food and doing all of this restriction deprivation cycle. Or they just say, forget it. And they are living in a body that doesn't feel like home to them. It doesn't feel
Mhm.
super comfortable to them. And so, especially for those of us that are high achievers, we think often that it's more rules and more restriction, more deprivation is the way to lose weight. Or like I said, I often see people like throw in the towel because it gets to be too difficult. But what happens then is there's such like a mental energy leakage almost where they're
Mhm.
spending so much of their mental energy either trying to force their body to lose weight or really hating that they're not in a body that feels good. And
Mhm.
that mental energy can be used in so many more productive ways when they learn what I call, like you shared, the naturally thin method, which is really a roadmap to help dieters or often type A, very driven women learn how to trust their body's cues to tell them exactly when, what, and how much to eat.
Yes, yes. It's just really a painful cycle that women are in, and it seems like the majority of the messaging around weight loss is around some kind of deprivation, restriction. You got to exercise all the time, and there's just I know for me, I was in the like you got to exercise to lose weight. And so every time I would exercise, I would gain weight because I would be hungrier. And I just like didn't understand that side of things. Or like go on like a really strict vegan diet where you can't eat anything or whatever. I mean, lots of people do veganism, but the point is like when people do it to control themselves and, to lose weight.
Yeah, and then for those women too, I don't wanna stereotype it for, like, just this type of woman, but because it is primarily the type of woman I serve is a very, like, driven, ambitious,
Yeah.
hyper focused, can get so much done, that then when she goes and she does these restrictive things or she's trying to eat 1,200 calories a day or train for a marathon or, do whatever she's doing, and she doesn't get the results she wants, she almost thinks like there's something wrong with her, or maybe she's like,
Mhm.
maybe I need more discipline and more self-control. And she almost like starts to drive herself crazy and like starts to
Mhm.
become obsessive, and like it can feel a little bit like a neurosis because you don't understand how you can be so successful using willpower and maybe some self-control and this type of skill in other areas of your life, but then when you try to lose weight and it doesn't work, they're kind of like baffled, or they think maybe I'll just never be able to lose the weight I want, and they feel really defeated.
Mhm. And then what do they do then?
Yeah, I see, kind of like I was starting to share earlier, either two kind of avenues. Some people will kind of just throw in the towel and be like, "Well, I guess I'll just never get there." But then
Mhm.
still deep down they really do wanna get
Yeah.
there, and so they'll, maybe kind of dabble here and there, and they'll go through big ups and downs where it's like a big pendulum swing where they'll go super, super restrictive, and, like, I used to work with a woman, she used to eat in 2-hour fasting windows,
Mhm.
and she would be able to do that, for a couple weeks, and then the pendulum will swing all the other way, and all of a sudden, she's binging. And so that will be what it is. Or I just see people kind of go constantly from one diet to another diet to another diet to another diet. And like, I'll try this for a little bit and I'll try that for a little bit. And they might not have as big of a pendulum swing, but it'll just kind of like bounce around trying to find like the quote unquote right diet that they think will fix their weight problem. And sometimes that'll turn into, neurotic exercise as well, where people
Mhm.
are just like, well, maybe if it's not the food, maybe I just need to exercise all the time.
Mhm. Yes, yes. And then with the women that are kind of bouncing from diet to diet, do you see them kind of like they'll lose the weight, gain it back? Like is that the yo-yo dieting or is that something different?
Yeah, so I do see people too. They'll lose weight, they'll put it back on, they'll lose weight, they'll put it back on. And sometimes when people come to me, it's like they've lost weight in a similar way, kind of over and over and over again, but now they're trying again and it's not working. So
Mhm.
something has changed either hormonally in their body or just in their physical state where they could be eating the same exact way they were 5 years ago and lost weight, but now they're not losing weight because
Mhm.
something's changed, and they just never learned the skill of being able to know how to nuance and listen to their body for their body to be able to lose weight. And it's just so it's just so exhausting and defeating, and there's so much of an energy drain that comes with that kind of up and down and up and down. And what I see missing from almost every diet ever, and I, only know my own experience and the experience of women I've helped, but I used to try every diet I could get my hands on, but no diet ever teaches you that your body actually wants to live at its optimal weight. Like your body wants to feel really good. You just need to get
Mhm.
your brain on board with your body's innate desire to feel really good. And when you start tapping into your body's innate desire to feel really good, and that's your driving force, the weight comes off in a way that is usually more easeful and more peaceful than people have experienced before. And then that momentum gets to build, and you don't have to spend your days and hours worried and thinking about food and your weight.
Mhm. And that just creates such an internal sigh, like, "My body
Yes.
really wants to feel good. My body really wants to be at its optimal weight." And it's like, "Oh, well, then why am I struggling so much?"
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, rather than trying to like, continually feel like you need to force your body to do something. And then when people have, gone up and down or tried a bunch of things before, they might even lose the weight and then they're like, "Okay, so now I have to do this forever?" Like to keep it off, and it's overwhelming, and
Yeah.
it's just not sustainable to force your mind and your body into a constant like restrictive, depriving, I need to like watch everything I eat states.
Mhm, because that spills over into all areas of their life, right? And just like the opposite of like when you step into the way that you're teaching, it spills over to all areas of their life. And I want to talk about that kind of that freedom from emotional stress. But before that, you've mentioned a couple of times about tuning in or listening to their body's cues. Can you talk a little bit about more about that? Because it's not something that I don't think people are really familiar with.
Yeah. And so sometimes when I say that, some people will have an initial reaction of, oh, intuitive eating. And then, like, I tried that and it didn't work.
Uh-huh.
And I tried intuitive eating too. It did not work for me as well because of I had been dieting for so long. I was so disconnected from my body's cues. And so that's why I created the naturally thin method, is to help you come back to truly intuitive eating principles. But usually most people that try intuitive eating when they've been dieting, they're just so far away from
Mhm.
having the skill to not only listen to their body, but actually honor what their body is saying as well.
Mhm.
And so what that looks like in the beginning is getting to know, like, what your optimal hunger level feels like without
Mhm.
freaking out at the first sign of hunger, and getting to know what your unique body's cues are and what exactly it feels like when your body is primed for food, and noticing how food tastes better, and noticing when you are not at your optimal hunger level, and maybe when you've gone past your optimal hunger level and what to do then, and just really getting to know your hunger level, and then deciding what you want to eat and how much you want to eat based on how you want to feel in your body. So I always say
Mhm.
to people, think about your ideal weight. How do you imagine you'll feel physically when you're at your ideal weight? And a lot of people will say energized. That might be one common word. So if someone wants to feel, let's say, energized and lean, then you start to think about, how can I eat in a way that allows me to feel energized and lean right now today? And you
Mhm.
start to get to know how your body responds to different food, and you start to nuance the ways in which your body communicates to you if food is allowing you to feel energized and lean. And
Mhm.
not that you need to kind of eat that way all of the time, but you just start to notice more and more of when you are eating in a way that allows you to feel energized and lean and when you're not. And when your driving force is, I want to feel energized and lean, and you start to feel that way right now today with your food choices, you don't have to wait until you lose 50 pounds. You don't even have
Mhm.
to wait until you lose, 5 pounds. You get to feel energized and lean right now. And when your brain starts to tune into that, it starts to really enjoy how it feels. And as it starts to enjoy how it feels, you start to enjoy it more and more and more. And so you, like, almost what I call, you fall in love with feeling really incredible in your body. So much
Mhm.
so that you then start to, maybe you eat something that doesn't feel as energetic and lean as you're used to, and you actually don't even enjoy that experience at all anymore. It's no longer
Mhm.
like, what food can I get away with? It's just, how can I feel as energetic and lean or as incredible as possible, and letting your body tell you, oh, you were able to do that when you ate this type of food at this time, or when you're at this hunger level, or this food in this quantity. And it's just kind of a rinse and repeat, somewhat trial and error process as you get to know your body, but you're simultaneously losing weight along the way.
Mhm. So it's like in that process, instead of like the rules and the obsession, you're building like a relationship with your body of learning how to understand and kind of communicate and interpret what your body is saying.
Yeah, and being able to trust then when your body tells you these things,
Mhm.
like, when is your optimal hunger level? Where do you feel it in your body? How do you know? And then being able to trust yourself that you have now practiced over time, getting to know what allows you to feel energized and lean, so much so that you can, go to a restaurant, or you can go on vacation, or you can go somewhere, and you'll trust yourself that you just love feeling good, that you don't really care about deviating from that. And of course, you always can. I never tell anyone, like, never tell yourself you can't have something. And I always tell people, especially if there's something that is not going to feel good in your body, but you just feel like so compelled to eat it, just take a minute and say to yourself, like, I can, of course, have that, right? I'm a grown adult human. I can decide to put
Yeah.
whatever I want in my mouth. But do I actually want it? How am I going to feel when I'm done eating it? And, like, really imagine through, like almost like a visualization, but just like imagine what it feels like to be in your body feeling energetic and lean. And I'm
Mhm.
just using that, as my language. Someone might have other words to describe how they want to feel, but you just, like, almost immediately feel that, like, I don't know how to describe it other than that, like, internal joy and, like, sunshine and, like, a
Yeah.
smile inside that you're like, all of a sudden the food that's going to cause you to deviate from feeling that way that you want to feel in your body, it genuinely just starts to lose its appeal. You don't need to force yourself into with like rules saying I can't have that. You just genuinely stop even wanting it.
Right, completely. And I've learned from you that there is that, like, when you do like feel discomfort in your body, or you do kind of go against how you have your body feeling optimal, that it's not an opportunity to like beat yourself up and go back to deprivation and the pendulum swing, but it's like, oh, like, be curious and like, oh, I ate a few too many bites, or wow, that's what discomfort feels like. And because it's like, we're not, I mean, I know for me, like, I have an autoimmune condition, and so like sometimes my body is going to react to a food that other times it may not. So like, if my body reacts differently, it's not a time for me to like beat myself up because I don't feel good. It's like, oh, okay, that's interesting. And what was surrounded by that, and versus going back to the old habits.
Yeah. And I don't think we are taught that typically that, oh, so you ate something and didn't feel good. Let's just understand why, right? Were you
Right.
stressed and you ate, or you just overate, or you were distracted, or maybe you just ate a food and you didn't know that it was gonna
Mhm.
not feel good in your body. And especially for us that have that like I call it almost like we're like rebellious rule followers where we like
Yeah.
think we like rules. But then we, like, get too many rules and we just kind of wanna say, "Screw it all," and we, like, rebel against it.
Uh-huh.
That we it's so easy for us to be like, "Oh, see, like, I blew it. Like, I didn't follow the rules or I messed it up," and so then we wanna just, like, tuck it under the rug because we think something we, like, identify as being able to follow rules, and then when we don't, we, like, have this, terrible thought that we think about ourselves versus, "Oh, let me just understand why I'm not feeling as optimal as possible so that I just have more information for myself going forward."
Absolutely. It was what you just said about the rule following too, and like, you coach your women in your program on that. Like, I've heard you talk, like, women will come in, they're like, "Well, I'm doing this and this," and then you catch like these like little rule systems that they're like applying into into their process, because it's just like what they do, right? So you kind of
Yes.
help to decondition them to get out of that rule following, because it becomes like so ingrained in what they're doing that they don't even realize it.
Yes, even when it's, like, their own rules they've kind of
Yeah,
set for themselves, when no one is telling them anything,
yeah.
they just yeah, it just can be so easy to create those, like, internal rules or expectations we have for ourselves.
Yes. And so what about like, what, because we were talking about earlier, I started to talk about like that kind of that freedom that you feel in the rest of your life. So I know in your journey you've shared about being like an anxious kid and like having a lot of anxiety, and like this relationship with food, it can be really connected with anxiety and pressure. And so how do you see that freedom from food, or that freedom from stress around your eating, like kind of shifting into having like a more healthy relationship with yourself and your life, and just that transformation?
Yeah, so food can be one of the ways that it's just so easy to quick have a snack or
Mhm.
quick eat a little something, or just like it can just be an easy distraction, even if it's quote unquote healthy food. And so, like you said, I was a very anxious kid and I had no idea how to cope with it. And so, my two coping mechanisms turned into food and being like hyper focused and like a perfect student.
Mm.
And so it was like, let me just channel this anxiety in this way. And what happens when you take the food away as the coping mechanism, or even now, like later on, I kind of took overworking away as the coping mechanism, what's left is what's underneath.
Mhm.
Eating past your body's optimal satisfaction level and eating when you're not hungry is all just a symptom of something else. And
Mhm.
for a long time, I used to think like, I don't have time for emotions. I just gotta like get my stuff done. I'm just like a doer and I'm hyper focused and I'm like strong. So I don't have time to like deal with my anxiety, almost as if it was, weak or something of me that I would have to, understand that feeling and why I was feeling that way. And so what happens is when you understand that the only reason you're eating in a way that's not honoring to your body is because there's an emotion there.
Mhm.
And then you are left with and you learn tools to kind of deal with those emotions, to morph them, to change them, to allow them. And then there's so much peace and freedom that that has when you don't need food to decompress from a stressful day, or you
Yeah.
don't need the food to relieve pressure if you're under a really tight work deadline, or
Yeah.
you don't need that, snack to be able to, you know, distract you from even slight boredom. You just know how to deal with those feelings when they come up. And then you get to just enjoy food because you're hungry and because it tastes good and because it leaves you feeling good in your body. There's not like you're not tethered in any way to your food or your relationship with food.
Yes, yes. And that opens up so much freedom. And like you talked about earlier, the mental bandwidth and all of that, like all of that capacity is freed up to be able to focus on things that you do love and that you do want to invite into your life and into your business.
Yes. And I don't know what it's like for you, but it's just when I'm feeling really good physically in my body, it's so much easier to enjoy being around other people. Like when I'm not feeling good in my body, I just am more irritated, I'm a little
Yeah.
more frustrated, a little more on edge. I'm just a little more annoyed because I'm like just not feeling good.
Yeah.
And so even of course when I am feeling good, I still feel those things sometimes, but it's just so much easier to be present in my own life and enjoy my experience in what I'm doing and with other people when I'm not distracted by even the slightest bit of physical discomfort from food.
Right. That's such a great point. Like it makes it easier to connect with people and when you're feeling good. And it's something that's interesting that I really learned about myself. And because, talking to like super achiever, high achieving women, like that's definitely who's our listeners are and our viewers. They're scaling their businesses, they're growing. Is I learned like I would feel pressure and stress even like with my success,
Yeah.
like had a great income month, had a great launch, things are going great. I even caught myself the other day like remembering that like when there was a celebration as a kid we would eat, and it
Yes.
was like feeling like, oh my gosh, like I brought in all these sales and like I want to eat.
Yes.
And so that this comes with success too. It's, I think, because that's something that you talk about. It's like it's not just about like being depressed on the couch and
Totally.
eating a bag of chips. It's also like the successes and the happiness can also bring this like nervous, anxious energy that makes us want to eat more.
Totally. And I just don't think we're taught how to almost like expand our ability to feel that excitement and happiness
Yes.
and joy and like actually just let our body feel it and enjoy being in it without it being just like a blip of a moment. And so
Right.
for people that are very successful, right, it's like you set a goal and you achieve a goal and you just like boop, you like move on to the next one, but you
Right.
don't actually increase your ability to feel more joy and happiness and success. And so as your success gets bigger, sometimes then your capacity hasn't grown to match it as far as
Mhm.
your emotional ability to feel it. And so then you're almost left with like anxious jitters even when things are going really well.
Right, because there is that excitement of, and there's that little nervous excitement sometimes of like having a big win or having a big success or just kind of like being in the glow of a big achievement or whatever, and learning how to be with that emotion. Yeah, that's so powerful. And I love that this came up in the conversation to just because I think a lot of times we hear like celebrate your wins and women don't talk
Mhm.
enough about that. And but there's more to it. It's not just the surface thing of course celebrate and like really be with the emotion of like how you're feeling and allowing that joy to be felt.
Yeah, totally. And I don't know for you, but I didn't know how to like experience true joy that
Mhm.
lasted for more than like, oh, cool, that was like great, or like, a very fleeting moment. And it is really a skill to be able to feel more joy for a lot of
Mhm.
people, especially I think people that are kind of like doers and goal setters, and they just like go, go, go all of the time.
Yeah.
And I used to think it was counterproductive. Like it was almost like it's a waste of time. I got stuff to do, right? But
Yeah.
it's like then your ability to feel more joy, it comes with you all day in everything you do, and you're able to get more done in less time. What you do is more potent when it's done with some of that joy-filled experience, and so then it's like it keeps compounding after that.
It does. It does. And so, share about your program, Naturally Thin for Life, and how you coach women to create this freedom from food and really connect with their bodies. Let us share with us about that.
Yeah. So Naturally Thin for Life is a membership where you come in and you learn the core 5-step method. And so that's what I call the Naturally Thin method, is the 5-step method. And really it's a way to come back home to how your body, your unique body, is designed to eat and live. So I provide you with tools that you customize to your unique body to really get to know, how does my body feel hunger? What's my optimal hunger level? And how do I know what food really serves me? And how do I know what my optimal satisfaction level is? So I provide all the tools, and then you implement as the woman going through it to really get to know your unique body. And what happens as you start to do that is you build so much trust and confidence with your body. And as you're going about that process, I also teach you how to evaluate your results, how to use the scale as data to really serve you, and data to really get to know your body, and how to use that external data to support that confidence and trust that you're building with your body's cues. And then another kind of core part of that process is you really learn the skill of generating more of emotions that you want and releasing emotions that maybe aren't your favorite, or that are leading you to eat in a way that is disconnected from your body. And then the 5th step is really learning how to coach yourself, meaning
Mhm.
how to understand your own mind and get your mind on board with your body's innate desire to feel really good. And it's about a 90-day process that you go through. And after those 90 days, you really know how to listen to your body,
Mhm.
so that what you eat today might be different than what you eat 6 months or a year, or, 10 years down the line, right? Our bodies are constantly changing. But what you have is that skill and that confidence and the trust of knowing how to listen to your body and live in your naturally thin body at your ideal weight.
And it truly is. I mean, you call it Naturally Thin for Life. And I mean, it truly is like it's a lifelong skill. And the longer you're with the content and you're getting coached, and because because I am a member, and you get to come on and get coached every week and get your questions answered. And you provide a lot of different ways to really meet women where they are in their comfort level, to get support, and get coached and get their questions answered, and also be coachable, like listen to other people get coached, and all of the different special content and topics that you do to really help women along their journey. So it's really powerful. And I know that there are women that heard this today that needed to hear this. And so for them to connect with you further, you have your own podcast that they can go listen to, right?
Yes. So the podcast is Naturally Thin for Life. Yep.
Yep. And then also, if they want to go to, we're going to have the links available. We have them available to come and connect more about learning about the Naturally Thin method and coming into your program. We have that URL. Do you want to just like name that for us now? So if somebody just wants to go type it out and be there.
Yeah, sure. You can head to lauradixoncoaching.com, and that has the podcast there too, and more about the
Perfect.
naturally thin method and all that. Yep.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for your time today, Laura. This was awesome. And it's just such a powerful conversation. And I just know that like the message needs to get out there so more women can be heard. And don't you have a goal of helping like 1 million women
I
or
do. I do have
yeah?
a goal of helping 1 million women. Yes.
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 So
I love
we're on the track to that.
Yes, amazing. Thank you so much
Amazing.
for having me.
You are welcome. Okay, everybody, this is Celia Faye Meisel and Laura Dixon, and we will see you, or I will see you next time on more